Hey, this is Sean Beckett from North Branch Nature Center. I'm here with Pete Kirby-Miller from Vermont Center for Ecostudies. Pete is on a adventure to catalog every mammal in the state of Vermont over the course of the year.
Every mammal species.
Every mammal species.
Some individuals can get away.
Okay. And so one great way to try to catalog some small mammals is to find owl pellets. And so we came across an owl pellet, and we thought we would come over and get together and do a little dissection live for you on camera. So, flip the camera around. So tell us what you're gonna do, Pete.
Great, so I'm gonna take this apart and see what's in it, but first, Sean, you found this owl pellet. Can you tell me what an owl pellet is?
So an owl pellet is, so owls, of course, they eat rodents, and but they don't let all of the bones and the fur of their prey pass all the way through. They actually retain those and they regurgitate them. So it's basically it's a dried piece of owl vomit, essentially. But a lot of folks confuse pellets with scat or poop. But in fact, these are coming out the other the other end of the owl, and this is something that I think all birds of prey, create, and they're a great way of doing a little inventory into the diet of the species.
So we're going to be able to identify some small mammals in here because their skulls and their jawbones are like largely intact, and teeth in particular in small mammals are really, really important for identification. And if you think about it, that makes a lot of sense because in mammals, teeth are really important tools. Like humans, we have our forceps and we have hands, and there are other mammals that have specialized digging parts, for instance. But for small mammals, it's really all their teeth. And if you feel around your mouth, like you can poke around and find different, if you're not wearing a mask, you can find different teeth that have different jobs. Like your canines might rip into meat. Your front teeth are great for chopping things up into small bits, and like your back teeth, your molars are grinding. Small mammals like really have diversified greatly based on different changes to their teeth. And that will be a lot of how we identify different things in here.
So we're going to go through here looking particularly, so I can already see there's a bunch of different, pieces of bone flakes in there amongst what I'm assuming is fur. Is kind of the majority of that biomass in there. But we're kind of going to pull away the different bones until we find some jawbones.
Here's one. And as I sort this out, I'm really sorting out into skull fragments and not skull fragments, because the teeth and the jaws are really specialized tools. Just like you could tell how a carpenter or a plumber was going about their life based on the tools that they leave behind, you can tell what a small mammal is doing based on their teeth. But they all have, I think that's a femur, I think. No, it's a pelvis. You can see the ball and socket joint. But all of our small mammals have pelvises, but not all of them have the same particular teeth. I'm using forceps here, and folks will say that you should be careful not to do this on like a eating surface. Don't do it on the kitchen table, because like all birds, owls can carry salmonella. Yeah, you could also wear gloves if you want. I'm just gonna wash my hands.
So you're excavating a skull here, it looks like.
Yeah, this is quite the exciting find. And yeah, we'll get a closer look at the teeth for close identification. But Sean, what does that scream to you? No wrong answers here. Well, probably not.
Well, it's dead.
Yeah, it's dead.
Definitely true.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely a screaming rodent, I think.
Yeah. Yep. And how can you tell that?
Well, those two front teeth on it, right, are nice and yellow and long, and it reminds me of almost like a miniature beaver skull.
Yeah. Exactly. And rodent, it turns out, is a great guess anyway. They're 40% of our mammalian diversity, and all rodents have just about the same tooth plan, and that's these two large teeth at the front on the top, and then two on the bottom, and then those are the incisors, like your two front teeth, your buck teeth. Those are for cutting, and then no canines, and it goes straight to molars, and sometimes premolars, I think, but definitely molars. And these molars are really important for identification, but we'll get to that once we sort the rest of this.
Cool.
What's really cool about rodents is that these teeth are really sharp, and they continue growing throughout their entire life. And that's really important because the way that they stay so sharp is how they wear. If you look really closely, you can see that there's sort of two colors. There's that more yellow one on the outside or towards the front, and then it's a slightly lighter towards the back. Very yellow on the front, and then slightly whiter on the back. That kind of shows you the difference between two different substances these teeth are made of, that most teeth are made of. All teeth are made of? All teeth are made of. Enamel is the front, just like our teeth are covered in enamel. It's just about the hardest substance known, naturally produced substance known. Biotic substance known? Yeah, diamonds are harder. It's the hardest biotic substance known. It's incredibly durable, and then behind it is dentine, which is also hard, but not quite as hard. So as they chew through things, the dentine wears away, and that forms that like chisel-like sharpness. And yeah, you mentioned beavers. Those are our largest mammals, and they can use those teeth to chew through trees.
I was actually thinking while you're dissecting the rest of this here, maybe I'll go run and grab our beaver skull that we have inside, so we can kind of do a comparison for fun.
Yeah.
This rodent versus our beaver and muskrats and some other rodents that we have. So so I'll let you continue sorting the piles, and we'll tune back in just a second with some other skulls. So Pete, what are we seeing here that all these kind of rodent skulls have in common?
Yeah. So the defining feature of rodents, well, probably all mammal families, rodent is an order, mammal groups are defined really largely by their teeth. And the unique thing about rodents is that they have those two large, continuously growing incisors. So that's your like classic like rat face. And on the beaver here, they're huge and an awesome example, just because they're so easy to see. But then they have no incisors, they have no canine teeth, and then they have grinding molars. And if you can see on this beaver the division between the dentine on the inside and the enamel on the outside. The enamel's really yellow, and then the dentine's much more white. And they didn't like sharpen this manually. It didn't grow naturally in a chisel shape. It's that it wears down as they chew. The dentine close to the enamel is protected by the harder enamel, and it wears down as they go through. So that explains some of the like chewing instincts that like rats and mice will have, and beavers. You'll see a lot of beavers chewing on things that they don't intend to eat or like even intend to like kill. Sometimes they'll go after trees that they don't like to eat, just to like do a little bit of microforestry to give space for a tastier tree to grow.
Oh, interesting.
But a lot of times they're just chewing because they want to chew. They have an instinct to chew, and it's very important for the maintenance of their teeth as sharp. I think this is very anecdotal, but I think there have also been reports of dead rodents that have been found that might have had like a musculoskeletal injury that let them like not have access to something to chew on, and their teeth will just like grow into the skull. At least that's a very evolutionarily sound myth. That's entertaining.
I mean, I've definitely heard that too.
Yeah,
You've seen pictures of you can find this pretty easily if you Google like pictures of like the skulls of rodents that haven't been able to chew down their teeth, and they grow right up into the into the palate of the roof of their mouth essentially, and so that constant chewing is necessary to be able to survive.
Yeah, and that's the unrooted incisor. Our teeth are rooted. You've heard of a root canal before. They don't grow continuously. They stop and they're capped, and then they just wear down. Whereas like rodents, their thing is the continuously growing incisors that wear down. But we'll talk a little bit more about continuously growing teeth, unrooted teeth, as we get further into this.
But here we have the owl pellets mostly picked through. It looks like there's a couple of little bones in there still, but like this is, as I back out here, you can kind of see like how much carnage or how much of the biomass of that pellet is made up by the bones of this diet.
Yeah, bones and fur. Not stuff that you necessarily need to pass on to your stomach and waste digestive juices on.
Yep. So we have our quarry now, and it looks like, and again, we're going to use the skull, and particularly the teeth, to ID. How many different individuals do we have represented in this pellet?
I'm saying 3. We have 3 fragmentary upper skulls.
So that's these 2 here, and then this guy. Yeah. Okay.
And not so many jawbones, lower jawbones, that I think that we missed half a skull.
So do you think that means that it's just either it passed through the owl, or it just is still in the woods somewhere and it fell off the pellet? Or
I mean, that could absolutely be the case. Or like even like it took its meal in bites. I've definitely seen that with squirrels, where I've found half a nice squirrel skeleton. I found like 2 femurs and some arm bones, and where's the head? But yeah, because they're not chewing, there's a lot of ripping, and it might not all be in one sitting. Probably hard to fly with a whole squirrel in your belly too. For the sake of variety, I brought some that I found this week as well, for us to look at. And all right, here.
So you've just put down something from your collection that you brought in.
Yeah.
Okay.
And let's do a little compare and contrast. I'll give you a jawbone that goes with that too. What do you notice about these?
Well, it looks like I'm seeing am I seeing some canines on the left, or am I seeing some additional?
Yeah. Well, canines is hard. That's
well, not necessarily canines, but like I'm seeing like there's teeth.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no big
that
gap.
are not. Yeah. There's no big gap in the teeth. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then what else do you know? Do you notice about this?
Well, the shape of the skull overall is like quite a bit like flatter and
Sure.
and straighter.
Sure.
Looks like there's still that dentine though, or not the dentine, but there's like still that like enamel / dentine thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right there, right? So that is a similarity, I'd say.
Yeah. Actually, this is a bit of a trick question, where there is a difference in color here, but these are all fully enamel coated teeth. There's not an enamel and a dentine layer visible. It's all enamel. Mm-hmm. But that red color isn't from staining. That is, this animal was born with that red color. And I'll actually show you a different individual.
Oh, so that's not like the red kind of like, I'm just gonna pan over to the beaver skull, right? Like the reason for the orange on the beaver teeth here is different than the reason for the red on the on this. Okay, yeah, yep. Cool. Since I'm only looking at this through the phone here, it's a little hard for me to tell what's going on, but that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So these are shrew bones, and all of our shrews, we have 2 genera of shrews, Sorex and Blorina, but they're all the red-toothed shrews, and that red is actually iron deposits, which help to make the enamel more durable. Because these, like you and I were born without teeth, and then we grow baby teeth, and they fall out, and then we grow adult teeth. Shrews actually have 2 sets of teeth, but the baby teeth are shed in utero, and they're born with these teeth, and they'll have them their entire lives. Huh. And a shrew can eat up to 3 times its body weight a day. If they don't eat for a couple hours, they'll starve. Huh. So they need, and since they have rooted teeth like ours, they don't continuously grow, so they need to be incredibly durable. And that those iron deposits, that iron red that you can see, is part of that.
So the other big difference here is, well, again, there's the lack of teeth in the behind those front ones.
Yeah.
And so that makes me think like, okay, this shrew, you mentioned it shrew eats 3 times its weight every day. These have got to be eating different things though, since their dentition is so incredibly different.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and yep, they're using their teeth in really different ways. Well, the shrews will be using this large incisor as a pair, kind of like salad tongs to grab onto their prey. Their prey, yes. They eat a lot of insects, where rodents largely are either generalists or entirely herbivorous. But this particular rodent is even further specialized as a grass eater. Now, yeah, I can tell that based on their molars. So all rodents will have those paired incisors at the front, like with that dentine enamel sharpening system. But if you look at these molars, we got a great view of them on the top jaw.
Yeah, and the top is in super good focus, so yeah.
Do you see those edges?
Yeah.
Can you describe them? Like, what does the side of those edges look like?
Well, again, I'm looking through the phone. It's a little tough, but it looks like the main face is flat, but then there's a sharp edge between that and the
super sharp
and the like perpendicular side.
For contrast,
here's
here's another skull fragment of a different rodent that is not as well adapted for eating grass.
Okay, yeah, and so that really rounds off rather than having that sharp edge.
Yeah, so these are also rooted teeth. These are teeth that are permanent and do not grow, where these are unrooted teeth, and they continuously grow, and they have enamel on the outside, and then on the inside that's dentine. So as they wear, they remain incredibly sharp, and they keep growing and not replacing themselves. They grow longer and then get worn down. And that's really important for things that are eating grass, because grass, not only does it have a lot of dirt in it that the small mammals aren't necessarily washing off and can grind your teeth down, grasses specifically have what's called phytoliths. They're these silica structures, these like triangular pyramid silica structures within the plant tissue that wears down teeth. So there are some theories, and like the science on this isn't set. Some people say the timing doesn't work out. That's saying that it wasn't grit on leaves, but actually phytoliths that helped push along the evolution of continuously growing teeth.
That's interesting. I'm thinking, this makes me think about like ungulates, moose, elk, deer, that kind of thing out. And often the what limits the longevity of those species is how long their teeth make it. When you look at bison that have made it 25, 30 years old, open their mouths, there's almost nothing left of those teeth. And so if you live long enough and avoid predation and make it through the cold winters and everything like that, often what does you in is running out of tooth.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so this all right, I'm gonna give a little bit of a weight here, is a vole. And this particular vole is in a taxonomic group where many of them have evolved these continuously growing molars that remain super sharp back there, but still rooted teeth like these, or like ours, or like these that are permanent and not continuously growing are like the basal trait. Like most things have that, but continuously growing teeth have evolved, particularly in herbivores. Yeah, so this is our most herbivorous, most grass-eating vole. It's a metavole. And those sharp edges on the top and lower molars are the real distinguishing factor there.
So we talked about, obviously shrews are not going to have that. There's that shrew on the left here,
yep.
Right? Those look totally different. But if we were looking at a mouse, it wouldn't look like that. It wouldn't have that sharp edge if it was a mouse. So that sharp edge that you're referring to is a vole characteristic.
Yeah, that's actually
something this small.
That's actually a meadow vole characteristic.
Oh,
so
okay.
we have two other vole species, and I'm not going to get into bog lemmings because they're very hard to find. If you do find one,
Are they
please
in
let me know.
Vermont?
They are in Vermont.
Is that going to be one of the harder ones in your search?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm gonna fail. That's the big reveal, is that the mammal big ear is gonna be a failure, but it's gonna fail in cool ways.
I like that.
But yeah, no. Some of our other vole species, the woodland vole and the redback vole, they have permanent rooted teeth rather than continuously growing teeth. So they'll have a very similar dental plan, dentition plan, with like the classic rodent incisors and then 3 molars, but the edges of those will be like notably rounder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's one of the critters that we have in here is a meadow vole. What about the other skull? Can we tell anything from the other skull fragments? Because we're missing kind of the back. We're missing the molars and the other pieces of the skull, right?
Well, this one has enough molar
Oh, yeah.
that I can like do a little comparison there, and I think this is the same.
Yeah.
As is when I flip this over. Kind of hard to see, but that one also has that razor sharp side to the molars, and that's not terribly surprising. I mean, the owl that ate these meadow voles was hanging out somewhere, and it was probably good meadow vole territory.
Yeah.
Most places are pretty good meadow vole territory. It's perhaps the largest range of any vole species globally, certainly on this continent. It goes everywhere from like the American South to just about like the very polar Arctic.
So pretty much, if you have an open area, it's meadow vole land. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there are other things that can live in meadows, like honestly shrews.
But I mean, in terms of voles, it's going to be the meadow vole spot.
Yeah.
As opposed to like redback voles and woodland voles are more forested.
Yep, absolutely.
We have 3 meadow voles in one. Oh, this is a barred owl pellet, by the way. We never mentioned that. We didn't talk about what species of owl it was that left this pellet, but this is a barred owl.
How could you tell?
Well, I guess I'm not 100% certain, but because I saw the owl sitting in that same perch, on several occasions,
that's pretty good.
I'm pretty sure it's a barred owl. But just the size of the pellet too overall would suggest that it had to be one of our larger owls. And so, it'd be right there, we'd be thinking, okay, it's either a great horned owl or a barred owl. And because this was at the edge of some pretty deep, dark woods and a small little opening, rather than kind of a large open field habitat, it was kind of, a small opening near the edge of the forest. That's classic barred owl habitat, as opposed to great horned owls, which typically spend more time in larger open agricultural areas.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that pellet with me. This was really fun.
Yeah. Well, Pete, thanks so much for helping us get to the bottom of this. I learned a ton. I had never spent very much time looking at small mammal skulls until this very moment. So thanks for teaching us. And
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, thank you.